everyone, Mr. Roten here, going to be doing some tutorials for teachers this summer on using PowerPoint in the classroom. A lot of people ask me about it, how do I make them look the way I do? And short answer is PowerPoint can do anything you imagine it can do. I use it for building my worksheets, building presentations, I use it for everything. It's really just a blank canvas. So I'm going to take you through a few tools that I think are very, very helpful. This is the background removal tool. This is only available in 2010 or later versions of Office, so 2013 works fine. Anything from Office 365 will work. And it is simple, but it is so powerful. You know, typically when I go online, I see PowerPoints that look, well, kind of like this, only they'll usually have one picture and then a whole bunch of bulleted text, and it's not good. What we want to do is to make these things as engaging as possible for students, and we can do that very, very simply with a few tools. So I'm going to start with this picture of Da Vinci over here. If you double click on the picture, you'll notice that the ribbon up top will change. It's context sensitive, so it's picture, so it gives me all my picture tools. And if for whatever reason that doesn't happen, you just click on the Format tab and you get all these fun little things you can do with pictures. Now there's some cool presets you can play around with, you know, stuff to make it look a little bit unique, a little bit different, but I don't really want to play with those things. What I want to play with is some custom stuff, especially over here in the top left corner. You see this button, Remove Background. This is a great tool. So when you click on that, you will see this happen. And if you immediately click Keep Changes, well, that's obviously not what you want. Maybe you want Da Vinci's floating head for some reason, but I don't think you do. So we'll try that again. What you're going to want to do is play with the size of the box in here. I usually just go to the full edges. I don't know why it doesn't default to the full screen, but whatever. Purple areas are what are going to be disappearing, what are going to remove. Everything else will stay as it is. So obviously we've got some work to do here. So you want to start with mark areas to keep, and we want to keep his hat. We want that to stay in, and obviously all of his body. And you'll notice it kind of follows the line that you draw. It's a pretty smart tool, so sometimes it'll know to fill in the gaps and things like that, but other times not so much. So you just keep drawing in lines until eventually, well, there you go. It's got all the pieces that I want now. It's also smartly recognized that if I want these, that I probably didn't want all that stuff in the back. So I simply click Keep, and now I have a much better looking picture. If we full screen, if we present this, you know, just looking at the difference between those two, you can see which one is more appealing to look at just by simple comparison. Now, this Michelangelo one's going to be a little harder because if you look carefully, it's a little pixelated. It's a pretty low resolution image, so sometimes you will have some issues cleaning up the edges. Let's see how smart the tool is on this one. Once again, I'm just going to go and fill the box, and as you can see, we're kind of all over the place, so I want to mark areas to keep. I want to keep his body. I want to keep that part of his body as well. And there's a little bit right there, and sometimes it won't be quite perfect, but it really doesn't need to be. If it's close, you're in good shape. And then we fill in. Now notice when I grabbed that, it also brought in the whole background because it's assumed if I wanted his hair, then I wanted everything of a similar color, which included that background. So now we've got all the parts we want to keep. And now we can start using the Remove tool and take out the parts we don't. Now again, it's pretty smart about finding color matches, but it's not always perfect. So now we'll go back to what we want to keep and bring back in some of the things that it removed. Oh, that looks good enough. We lost a little bit of his beard down here, so we'll kind of fill that back in too. And then we just click Keep Changes, and then once again, we have a much cleaner looking picture. Now you're going to look at that and go, well, that does not look like what I want to look like. Well, part of it's because I blew these guys way up, so if you shrink them back down, it definitely looks better that way. But also the real issue here is the background. It can really help to have a slightly busier background. It'll help to clear up those edges. So we want a background for our artist, so let's go ahead and look for the Sistine Chapel. And obviously we want images. And one other sort of mini tip hidden in here, if you go to Search Tools, and you go to Size and you choose Large, you're going to get much better images for your PowerPoints. You won't get that pixelization problem. So any of these seem fine to me. So we're just going to do a quick copy and paste that in to our background. And then we want to resize it a little bit better. Close enough. And then we're just going to right click so we're dealing with the image, send it behind the other guys, and then there we go. That looks real good. You will notice there is a black border on our DaVinci. Again, that's easy to clean up. You just double click on him, you get the format tool, and we don't want a border on Mr. DaVinci, so picture border just set to none, and we're all clear there. Now I wanted to show you what this tool can really do when you get used to using it and get really into it. So here's a lesson I made a couple years ago where I heavily relied on the background removal tool. You can actually see it here on this very first slide. This is not part of the map. This is an individual piece, but because there's no background attached, it kind of blends in there cleanly with the background. And did it need that? No, I probably could have had this without it, but just adds that little click there that that students really will gravitate to. You know, they start asking about sea monsters on maps, and it opens up a whole other conversation. So here's the opening slide for that, and here's a picture of Marco Polo, once again using the background removal tool, and I was able to give him a Waldo hat using the same tool, and the background again looks clean. Whereas if this were a squared off thing, you'd have lines covering his head. It just wouldn't end up looking right at all. And here what we actually have is a close-up of the map that we're working with, the Catalan Atlas map. And you can see this piece here. It is an individual layer. It's its own piece. It's this exact piece right here from the map. And I've cut it out. You can see there's the original as it stands. And I cut it out of the map. By doing, the way I did that was using the background removal tool. So I just simply took the background of the map, I'll make a copy here to work with, and use the remove background tool. And this time I'm actually going to use the box to pick just the piece I want. And I can shrink it down like that, and then boom, it's smart enough to find the edges. And now what I have is just that layer, just that piece of the map. Now you say, hey, it's black and white. Where'd the color come from? Well, it was originally in color. I turned it black and white, so if you want the color back, you can make it a custom color if you want to do that, or you can just revert to the original, which was in color. So once I've cut all that out, put the original on the back, on the background layer, and turn it black and white. And then I have this colored piece that stands out here. So now when students look at this, they're only really going to focus in on the part that I have colored. It's a really cool effect where you don't lose the whole map. It's still there. The context of it is all still there. But the focus piece is in color. In this case, you might be saying, well, why is it blurred? Well, here's what it looks like if you look at the full slide. We start with just the map itself, just the part we're focusing in on. That's a little too small, so let's make it a little bigger. What I did is I just duplicated the layer, magnified it a little bit, had it zoom in on animation, and then added a second layer of animation where I blurred the background. So again, their focus is moved over here. That's really what PowerPoint, and especially background removal, is all about. It is about directing the focus of your audience, specifically your students, at the specific thing you want them to be looking at. Here's another really cool way you can use this tool. I've taken this photo of an old ghost town kind of thing, and it looks like I haven't removed anything, but I actually have. The sky used to be here, but it has been removed. So what you are actually seeing in the sky here is a background layer of clouds, and that layer is actually a video. I just went on YouTube and searched for loop of clouds and stuck that in the background. So when I actually play the show, you get this really cool effect where the background is now in motion because it's just that video. And the foreground, the picture, because I've removed the background, you can see the video layer behind it, whereas before it just would have been static clouds. So it's a simple thing that adds that bit of motion and adds a little student interest. In the same presentation, I want to show one more use of the tool. Here it is again, that same effect that I used in the maps activity, but you take certain pieces of the picture and you break them out, you remove the background, and you put those in color. Again, what I actually have here is I have the picture 3 different times. I have the full picture, the background layer, and then I copied it and cut it down to just the woman. Then I copied it again and cut it down to just the natives over here. So now when I actually play the show, you can see it just starts as the picture, but then the parts I want to talk about come in as I advance the show. You can see here, if you look carefully, it's not perfect. The background removal tool did not pick up his bow, for example, in this little corner. Didn't pick up every little piece of the natives, but it's good enough. It has the impact that you want it to have. So that is the background removal tool. Very powerful, very simple. I would suggest more than any other tool in PowerPoint, if you can learn to play with that one, your students are going to be very, very impressed. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, anything, send them to me. Visit the website, www.mrroten.com.